What do you think of my draft?
I really like the idea. I would just add two things to it, you. So the election, no matter who the nominee is, needs to be about two things: how bad the Biden administration has been and how good things were under Donald Trump. So any idea, and yours is a very innovative one, needs to be folded into that broader message. The other, and you have accounted for this risk, is that once you say that a person or a group of people is would be a good choice for your administration, any weaknesses they have can tend to become your weaknesses. In other words, the press can attack you by attacking them. So the list has to be vetted, and I know you've done that. But
I have done
if
it.
Trump,
I'm thinking that the president's going to be in a lot of courtrooms, and he's not going to be
yeah,
doing a lot of events, and that they need 25 people to go out there with some credibility and raise money and campaign on those first 2 points that you made, and with some expertise. For example, Dan Brule, he's been the Secretary of Energy. I'm sure he'd come back. John Ratcliffe has been the DNI. I'm sure he'd come back. And it would also end this Trump's going to be a dictator stuff, because this list is very credible. Lots of senators. Jim Tellem, would you explain to people the deference that senators get when they're nominated? It's not absolute, but it's pretty doggone high.
oh, you mean for confirmation?
Yeah.
Yes, it's much easier to confirm. I mean, that was the old rules, the old books, and of course, none of those apply to the same extent as they used to. But yes, I mean, a senator who is well known has an advantage. I mean, there's no question in the great run of cases. Once in a while, you're going to find somebody attacked, but it makes a difference. And so, yeah, there's something to be said
I
for
want to
nominating
bring up.
senators.
I want to bring up one of those names. Um, John Tower was not confirmed to be Secretary of Defense under H.W. Bush.
Right.
Dick Cheney was confirmed after that. That was because John Tower was said to have a drinking problem, and senators worried he might be incapacitated in an emergency, which brings us to Defense Secretary Austin going AWL for 6 days. What was your reaction to that? If John Tower had a drinking problem, couldn't be Secretary of Defense, what do we do with a Secretary of Defense who doesn't tell anyone he's going away for 6 days?
Yeah, well, I could just repeat what Tom Cotton said. Now, I do want to say, now that we found out it's cancer, of course we should all wish, and I'm not saying this for political reasons. He's a human being. Cancer is very scary. We get that. The minimum that he should have done, and if he had done this, I would be inclined to defend him, and I think others like Senator Cotton would also. He needed to fully inform the Deputy Secretary of Defense and the White House. At that point, it would have been reasonable for him to say, okay, now I've informed Kath Hicks. She's the DepSec. She's taking over. She's responsible now for letting the House and Senate Armed Services Committee know about it. But you cannot go out of pocket, even for an afternoon, as the Secretary of Defense. Even in a steady state situation, and basically a peace situation, the Secretary of Defense has routine duties every day that only he can perform. For example, approving the global movement of forces. Okay, so you just can't do this. Now, I don't think Austin ought to be fired if the president otherwise thinks he's satisfied, but I do think we need a statement from him to the effect this was a serious error of judgment and it's not going to be repeated.
Senator Talent, I disagree with you because I'm not a military man. I'm just a civilian who knows a lot. I've asked many of them. Not one person in command at any level, from lieutenant colonel on up to four-star admiral or general, would be in their job today if they left their post for 4 days and did not inform their immediate superior and their immediate number two. They'd all be fired.
No, there's grounds for doing it, you. And remember, I said if otherwise satisfied. If this were Cap Weinberger and he was rebuilding the military and doing the great job he did, and I were the president, okay, I would not want to sacrifice such an asset, even for such a serious lapse in judgment. Now, there are other reasons you can argue that Lloyd Austin ought to go, and I agree it affects that judgment. But I wouldn't be pushing if I was otherwise satisfied with him for him necessarily retire. But you're correct. And Tom said the other day, look, a battalion commander who did this, I mean, that would be the end of his career, right? So, yeah. I
Last
get
quick
the point.
question. There's an oil tanker taken hostage this morning by six
Right.
people dressed in black. We don't know it. Can they do with oil tankers what happened with the 9/11 airplanes? Can they be wrecked on shore and run into things?
Yeah, I would imagine Admiral Stav would, of course, be able to tell you. But you were kind enough to retweet the column Jerry Hendricks and I did. This is why it would really be good to have more ships, so that we can
Amen.
prevent this kind of piracy and attacks on international shipping and American forces. You know, I mean, we don't have enough ships.
We're all going to pay the price for having a ship shortage. That piece in National Review is out there. Go and get it and read why. Jim Talent, follow him on X, and I expect to be on my next fantasy draft list because now I've asked him about the first one.